What's going on, everybody? So today we have the new update patch notes dropping. You can see here in the top right-hand corner, we have 12 hours and 15 minutes before this update actually happens. By the time this video drops, it's probably going to be about like 11 hours. But with that being said, we have a bunch of things to go over. Let me just pull these two up here. We have the bug fixes as well as the patch notes. And it looks like this is going to be a pretty solid one with additional new legendary items and a bunch of events. So without further ado, let's just jump right straight into it. We have server merges wave 2. We've already kind of gone over this with all the data mines going about. This is going to be a lot of your EU servers, from what I understand. Looks like some EU. Yep, EU across the board. A ton of different servers are going to be merging, as well as a few of the North American ones that got left out in the first wave. I'm not sure if there's any other servers that are being left out. If there's going to be a wave 3, you'll have to let me know in the comment section if your server is still missing from this list. But I think this is overall a good thing, especially with all the changes that they're making. So I'm enjoying that. Happy to see it. All right. Next up, Season 7 Battle Pass Ancient Guardians. This is a pretty cool skin, to be honest. I like the sort of like the ruined Guardian look. I think that's kind of fun. But Season 7 Battle Pass, nothing really interesting here. It's going to be the same thing. Legendary crests, hilts, things like that, right? But moving on to the next thing, Hungering Moon, back for seconds. November 24th to the 27th, complete task. You're going to be able to draw the Magic Find Blessings or the Moon Sliver quests. Pretty simple. You're able to buy some, looks like some legendary crests and a few other things. Not really crazy. Next up, we have the Void Wound Cage Wilderness Exploration task. This looks like a new one. There's a few new ones down here. We have meteoric chunks of crimson slag have mysteriously fallen into Sanctuary's wilderness. They're etched with ancient runic writings that hint at something evil stirring in its slumber. To begin this wilderness exploration task, locate one of each slag crash sites, find the pieces, and perhaps you'll acquire once forbidden knowledge. So it looks like some random search and acquire quest where you're going to be getting these slags, and then you're going to acquire some crazy reward that we don't know. My guess is it might be like a legendary item or maybe a legendary crest. Pretty much outside of that, not really. Probably that's what it is. So I'm not really expecting anything more than that, but it seems like a fun idea. I like this kind of style of event and more exciting than something like the Hungering Moon, in my opinion. Exalted Night. Darkness clings to a fallen slag fiercely, and a dying moon paints the night sky in a threatening aura. A new evil stirs, but where will your investigation of it lead? Logging in on December 8th and December 10th will unlock exploratory tasks that, if completed, will net you rewards to aid in your upcoming voyage to the setting of our next major update. Ooh, major update. So it looks like this is teasing the next major update, probably a week from, or a couple weeks, or rather a couple updates, I should say, post this update around December. So if, let's say it's the 23rd when this update drops, I'm not sure if this month's go to the 30th or the 31st, but then we're going to have like December 7th is going to be the next minor update, assuming that. And then major update might be around December 21st, which seems accurate or seems similar to the data miner info. So they weren't saying that the major update would be coming, but they kind of gave a somewhat real rough timeline of some updates to come. So I wouldn't be surprised if like Christmas time we have a major update. That'd be really nice. December 14th, you can continue to combat Evil Blade first by completing additional tasks. Cool. Again, it looks like some very basic rewards, some fun activities. Most of these events are pretty similar in that you're going to get a legendary crest, you're going to get some hilts, you're going to get some dust, and that's pretty much it. Next up is the Shields of the Hearth limited time event. Bitter winds carry the whispers of evil to every corner of the frozen land. Protect the world from its grasping fingers during the Shields of the Hearth limited time event from December 7th to the 21st. As you complete daily Shields of the Hearth tasks, you'll receive various rewards. Again, probably just the same event that we've always gotten. Log on, do whatever you need to do, and you'll get free rewards. Pretty simple. There's some bug fixes here, but we're going to wait till we go over some legendary items. So this is where it gets super exciting. We have 36 new legendary items here, and a couple more things to kind of go over. So let's just go ahead and check this out. Starting off here with the Barbarian. Now, I've played every single class up to this point, so I kind of have an idea on what these things are going to be doing for you. The only exception would be potentially what places and what builds they might fit into, but at least I have an idea on what these things are going to do. So, Lone Castle. Chance to block projectiles is increased by X% during Whirlwind. This is going to be a shoulder piece. If I'm not mistaken, the Wreck Fall is also a shoulder piece, which gives you just flat damage reduction in your Whirlwind, which means that I'm not a huge fan of these shoulders. Luring Club, Main Hand, and Hammer of the Ancients, damage is increased by X% against stunned enemies. I'm not sure how often you're stunning, so I guess Hammer of the Ancient in of itself stuns, so maybe that counts as a stun, and therefore it's going to increase the damage. Cool, not super impressed. Pants. Chain Spear now also shatters armor, increases all damage enemies taken by X% for Y seconds. This is actually a big one, and I'm really enjoying this one for support Barb. Running something like the Shout plus the Armor Shred on your Whirlwind plus Chain Spear Armor Shred. This could be a very, very massive damage increasing kind of kit for Barbarian. I actually really like that. Head. Ground Stop maximum charges increased by X. Cool. Usually if you're using ground stop, you're probably running a open world farming build, so like leave it behind, etc. Maybe. So depending on that one, but not a huge fan of that one. Hammer of the Ancients now strikes the ground multiple times, knocking enemies up in the air with each strike, but your movement speed is greatly decreased during the assault. I like this one. This is an offhand. This could be a very, very good, depending on how large the AoE and depending on if you could just like move freely with this. I actually like this mechanic, but it really depends on how big the AoE is. If it's really small, then it's probably bad. If it's really big, it could be some massive PvP skill for you. Then we have the Temple of Battle, a chess piece. Chain Spear now sweeps spears from the left and the right, gathering all enemies within the area into a cluster in front of you. Interesting idea, maybe good for PvP, gathering up enemies on the chest slot. Potentially interesting. So overall, Barb, I kind of like the shattering and the AoE stun. Some very, very good PvP CC ability, assuming the aura or the AoE is not super small. And then the Chain Spear shattering armor seems very good to me, especially for PvE builds where you could combo with other armor shredding features as well as just damage increasing. Next up is Crusader. We have Blade Prison. Falling Sword now calls down 5 electrified swords in a formation around you that arc, damaging nearby enemies. Cool. This has to be a lot of damage if we are removing the kind of range aspect of it, but could be good. Shoulders, Chambers of Exhaustion. Sacred Chain now imprisons enemies in a targeted area. Enemies who attempt to leave will be stunned. Not sure how Sacred Chain is going to work. I guess it's just going to turn into an AoE, maybe kind of like the Monk stun field. I kind of like this idea, especially if it's a ranged ability, because you can just place a ranged imprison, which is like really good to me. So I kind of like that in PvP a lot. Fitting Thunderhead Chest, Falling Sword now also decreases enemy movement speed by X% for Y seconds. Not a huge fan of this one. I feel like you need some more value than just a movement speed decrease. Insulator Pants, Conjuration of Light now also reduces the duration of loss of control effects by X%. Wow. Wow, I really like this one. You can really focus in on Conjuration of Light. You can run like a chess piece that could turn it into the ground field for 5 seconds, and then you're also reducing loss and control effects by a ton, hopefully, and then you're going to have immunity to damage as well as just being able to dish out damage while not getting stunned. That could be very, very good. Offhand, Holy Banner now also reduces continual damage taken by allies by X%. Very interesting for offhand and could be potentially really good in combination with the crit rate bonus on Banner. I actually like this for PvP as well. Head, when Sacred Chain ends, it now inflicts damage to all nearby enemies. Okay, depending on how much damage it does, it could be good, could be kind of mediocre. Overall, I think Crusader's really focused in on PvP. Compared to Barb. This is like, I don't really see anything in here that would make me want to use it for PvE, but PvP I could definitely see some options. For example, this Chambers of Exhaustion, Conjuration of Light, the Insulator, and potentially Luster Titanic. Next up is Demon Hunter. This is the one I'm going to be paying attention to because I am playing Demon Hunter currently. We have the head, Abundant Intangibles. Escape now makes you invisible for X seconds. Ooh. I really like this for PvP. I think invisibility is super underrated. For those of you that have to deal with the wizards, this can definitely, you can feel the effect of this. Depending on how long you stay invisible, it can be very, very good. I like this ability. Much prefer having a stealth aspect versus daring swing as a Demon Hunter in PvP. Buzzard on the wing. During strafe, your movement speed is increased by X%. I've noticed that I'm doing a lot of things with strafe. Depending on how much movement speed increased this could be a potentially decent main hand to run. Concentrated coldness, smokescreen now throws an ice bomb at a target location, chilling and damaging nearby enemies, increasing smokescreen's maximum charges to X. Okay, this is actually very, very interesting as well. If we get multiple charges of this, we could definitely be using this in PvP. Going ahead and chilling and damaging enemies can be very, very good combination of skills, or rather debuffs applied to the enemy. 100 Striking Shadows, multi-shot now also deals X% damage to shields. Okay. I guess this is a shield specific thing. This could be good in PvP, I guess, with Phoenix Ashes running around, with Frozen Heart running around, with I guess a bunch of other things going around with shields like Shield of Zen, bone armor. This could be very, very good because you have a lot of situations where a lot of opponents are running shields, but in PvE, absolute trash. Then we have the chest piece here, Radella's Life Braid. Each time Strafe deals damage to enemy, its damage against the enemy is increased by X% or up to Y% for up to Z seconds. This is interesting because I feel like with enough Strafe, ooh, and the offhand here. Hold on, let me read the offhand and then talk about Strafe. Strafe now fires piercing shots at nearby enemies, so it can pierce through enemies. This is interesting because I feel like you could run a very solid PvE Strafe build, having increased movement speed on the main hand, having Strafe piercing shot offhand, having chest piece that's going to increase your damage as you go through, and then having potential other legendary items to amplify Strafe, and then just strafing through everything. The only problem with that is that you have limited energy and you can't just spam it forever, which could be a little sad, but interesting. I kind of want to try a strafe build here. So overall for Demon Hunter here, I like the invisibility. I like to see if there's something there with strafe. I'm not a huge fan of strafe right now, but could be okay. And then I also really like these shoulders here for multi-shot, really countering those wizard shields, necro shields, monk shields, every shield in the game. I like that a lot. Monk, blazing ablution. Okay, Blazing Ablution. I've never even heard of this word before, but Wave of Light now places multiple golden bells that all resonate and deal damage to nearby enemies when you or your allies hit any of them with primary attacks. This could be very good for PvE dungeon running. This could do a lot of damage, especially when you're hitting like AoE groups of enemies. This can be very, very good. Branding Bond, Mystic Strike now causes you to move quickly in a direction, damaging all enemies in your path. I like this as well. This gives you a little bit more mobility with the kind of loss of the pulling enemies along with you. I like that, which gives you just, again, another flexibility. Budding Anew, chest, 7-sided strike now also grants you a shield absorbing X damage. Okay, not sure about this one. I think I'd rather have the damaging dealing 7-sided strike or another chest piece here. Could be good maybe in combination with that, maybe in PvP. Not convinced on that one, but can get some value out of it, I'm sure. Steering Titan, Hinder Sanctuary now reduces enemy movement speed, attack speed in an area, and your allies gain increased movement speed and attack speed. Ooh. Now my question would be, can you combo this with the damage amping Inner Sanct? Because if you can, this becomes one of the most powerful buffs for group content in the entire game. If you cannot, then I could see it being a niche PvP counter, but even then, you have to apply it on yourself, which means you have to dive into the enemies, apply it, and then your allies aren't going to get the bonuses. So I'm not sure about this one. I really want to see if it can combo with damage amping Inner Sanct. That could be very, very good. Twitching Palm, offhand, Fists of Thunder's first strike now becomes Empower with Lightning, emitting bolts that deal X damage. Nice. Little bit of an interesting damaging ability, especially with PvP in consideration, because you're going to be first striking a lot of enemies. Unyielding Doctrine, main hand, each time you deal damage with Fists of Thunder, you have an X% chance to be electrified, increasing your primary attack speed by Y for Z seconds. Okay, cool, could be a PvE option. I don't really like attack speed for melee characters in PvP content. Moving on to Necro here. We already threw 4 classes. There's a lot to go through here. Necro, Communal Rib here, main hand. Bone Spirits has an X% chance to inflict fear on enemies. Cannot fear the same target with more than often than every Z seconds. Very interesting. I like this because fear is a very powerful debuff, and I like this chance to inflict it. I want to see what kind of chance we're talking. Like, are we talking 5%, 10%, 50%? Definitely want to see that before I comment on it further, but definitely could be some very, very good PvP bonuses. And I also want to mention, I think that mainly this is a PvE kind of change for Monk for the most part. Executive Discontent increases all damage you deal by X% for each skeletal mage you have active. Very interesting. I forget what you have to replace for shoulders, because this is really a PvE consideration if we're talking about skeletal mages, which means we have to figure out what shoulder piece we're using in that summon build, but could potentially be a useful one. Gilded Nightmare Pants. If a target is killed within X seconds of being struck by Grim Scythe, it will deal Y damage to all nearby enemies and cause them to flee in fear for Z seconds. Could be potentially a good challenge rift type of scenario. I don't really like this in PvE outside of that, because I want my enemies to be grouped up, and in PvP you're not really going to be killing enemies with Grim Scythe. So really just a challenge rift thing for me. The Malocluse Bone Spikes now creates pulsating bone spikes in a target location that continually damage enemies in the area. This could be interesting for a PvE type build, although will it compare with the summons? I don't think so, so I'm not convinced on that one. One-Armed Devourer, Corpse Lance now consumes nearby corpses to form a lance storm in the targeted area. The power of the storm is increased by the number of consumed corpses. Interesting. Again, if it's in a targeted area and it's going to be lasting for a decent amount of time, I don't like it for PvP. For PvE, will it compete with summons? Once again, I'm not sure. I think summons are incredibly, incredibly strong, and I don't think that Necro really has the tools to go ahead and actually be able to compete with their summons, even with their own kits. Then we have the chest here, Silt Strider. Bone Armor now deals continual damage to our targeted enemies and produces corpses once the effect ends. Interesting. Interesting. I like what they're doing here. The continual damage, these three all probably want to go in the same build. You go Bone Spikes, Bone Armor, Corpse Lance, and then maybe you run like Corpse Explosion, or maybe you run like Desolatoria with a Golem or something. Actually, Desolatoria. Yeah, Desolatoria is the main hand, I believe. So can do something like that with continual damage. Interesting continual damage options for Necro. I'm not convinced. Necro so far, to me, seems like the weakest out of all these classes in terms of legendary items for the new update here. Last one up, we have Wizards. This is the one. This is going to be a critical one because, well, Wizard, in my opinion, is absolutely the strongest class in the game. Affinity Spiral. Meteor now deals X% increased damage to frozen targets. Okay, this doesn't matter for PvE because you can't freeze bosses, but for PvP, this could be interesting if you go with some sort of Ray of Frost plus Meteor combo with like Firestorm maybe, or something like that. Could be interesting. I don't think it's very convincing, but can be okay, I'm guessing. Not super impressed by it. Alter Crystal offhand, Arcane Wind now also freezes chilled enemies for X seconds. Cannot occur more often than once every Y seconds. Now this is a big deal. Reason why is because Arcane Wind is now a CC move in combination with Ray of Frost, and you only need to hit Ray of Frost once for them to be chilled, and then you can freeze them directly after. Something like Ray of Frost, Ice Crystal, Arcane Wind, and then Black Hole, or Arcane Wind plus Teleport could be a very interesting combination. I'm very interested in this one. Frozen Wellspring Meteor now calls down a blizzard that continually damage and chills enemies in the area. Okay, very similar to Meteor Storm with the fiery version, but now it's freezing. The Hail Nurse, an Ice Armor now also reduces damage you take by X%. Now that is very, very good. I believe it's your pants, if I'm mistaken, let me know. But Ice Armor reducing damage can be very, very good in combination with potentially a shield going on with it. Prophet's Corolla, slow time now blocks all enemy projectiles from entering or exiting. That is a big deal. This is a head slot, so you're going to replace your clone that you're going to leave behind, but running slow time blocking all projectiles and reducing attack speed and reducing movement speed is very, very good. Very, very good. I like this. Staff of Bang. Main hand, Arcane Torrent now launches missiles ahead of you and can be channeled while moving. Whoa. Whoa. That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. It depends on how much damage it does, really. It can be very, very good though. So overall, I think the Wizards are not like insane, because Wizards are already so insane. Like when I'm looking at slow time, there's already a slow time modification that I might take over this. I'm not a huge fan of the Meteor overall in PvP content, and in PvE, you're really going to want to run a Firestorm build, so freezing isn't really going to be an option here. So I don't know. Not a huge fan of the Wizard items overall in the context of the Wizard, but they can be decent. So I think they're more focused on PvP, to be honest, with the Ice Armor, Slow Time, and potentially the Arcane Torrent. So seems interesting to me, not hugely convinced on the Wizard items. So overall, I think that the people that won the most out of this are definitely going to be the Barb. Really, really interesting support Barb coming in with these items. Demon Hunter actually has some really awesome options in PvP. Crusader also has some really good options in PvP. And then Monk, I think that really depending on how this Wave of Light and Inner Sanctuary work can be absolutely massive for dungeon content or group content in PvE, and potentially one of the best supports in the game. So very, very interesting there. All right, that was a lot to talk about in Legendary Items. We still have some more things to go over. Last couple of things. Stash chests and army have been added to Castle Sirengar. Cool. We have just the experience efficiency of several areas in the Ashwold Cemetery area and Mount Zaven zones to create parity across all zones. I hope this is a buff and not a nerf. I don't think they'll be nerfing because Realm of Damnation is going to be absolute best so far. So I imagine they're buffing areas, which is a good thing. But the fact that they say adjusted and not buffed or nerfed makes me a little nervous. Family bonus attribute, we have improved the mechanics behind the family bonus attribute. Now stacking the same family bonus attribute across multiple pieces of gear will result in its eternal cooldown being lowered. Now this is a good change. Look at this here. Number of the same family bonus attribute equipped, 6. The chance here before the patch was 12%. It looks like, actually developers know, as you stack the same family bonus attribute, the damage of the effect would increase, but the internal cooldown remained the same. When we released invocation properties, we used a similar system and improved it so that stacking the same invocation property, therefore, okay, so it looks like we had a 12% chance. It looks like it actually stacked on of itself. That's what the devs are saying. Damage was 150%. Then, with the new changes, the damage does not get increased. That's an important distinction, but the cooldown gets about 1/8, which is pretty good in my opinion. However, is this good enough to replace stats? I don't think so. I think I'd rather just run beneficial effect duration, attack speed, etc. on my pieces of gear rather than going for the family bonus attributes, but can be good, I think. Set item directory, players can now view all potential set item drops from a respective menu through a new directly added to the codex in the pre-dungeon menu. Love this, love this. This is a very nice quality of life update. Cool, love it. Hell difficulty selection. The menu in which players select a hell difficulty to play on will now also display a recommended combat rating in addition to a recommended paragon level for each difficulty. Cool. They already have that, but you just had to look for it. All right, so overall, that's pretty good. There's a few last things in bug fixes. Fixed issue that made some players invisible while having the below the sands cosmetic equipped. Abnormal behavior on some skills. Cooldown timer has been added for the hero's junior reset. Issue that caused Diablo Immortal to crash while inspecting the Wall of Honor. Nice. Fixed issue that removes players from their clan after server merge. Really happy about that. And a few other bug fixes, not that important ones. Okay, so really, really solid minor update. I don't know what to say about that outside of that, guys. I'm getting a little tired here. That was a lot of talking. It's a 22-minute video to kind of diagnose all of these legendary items, but overall, I think this is a good mini update. Again, this is going to be just a regular 2-week update. And as I always say, if they add new legendary items with this new minor update, I've always been a big fan of that. And I really want to try out this escape with stealth on the Demon Hunter. So I might have a video for that coming out soon. And I also want to try out this strafe here and see what I can do with it. Very, very interesting for that as well. Let me know what you think about the legendary items. Let me know what you think about the patch in general. I think really the only thing you care about in this patch is if you're on one of these servers, you're going to be server merging. And if you're not, well, just look at the legendary items because all these events are going to be pretty similar, just some few legendary crests and things like that, which are always nice. But for the most part, interesting update. Happy about it. And we'll have to see what this major update is coming soon. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like the video, sub to the channel. See you all tomorrow.